So in this quick tip, I want to talk about subscribing to observables. Now, if you are working with NGRX or if you're working with a router, you're going to work a lot with observables. And the problem with observables, for me at least, is that when you're subscribing to any observable, essentially this will be a contract where you for sure you're going to get at one point the value as soon as the value is emitted. This might happen at a later time, and I'll give an example. So if you are subscribing to a slice of the store, the NGRX store, and you think you can get a value, but then you don't actually get a value because no value was emitted. And you can see right here, this is an example where I go skip while I'm waiting for a value to come in, and as soon as it's not null, I get a value. But if for whatever reason I didn't get any value back, and again, this would be due to a bug, I would just have a listener that's waiting for this particular instance of get channel from viewer. And even though I put a take one to try and solve this problem for zombie subscribers, if I didn't get a value because again I was just missing some value in the database in the NGRX store, at this point this zombie listener can really come and bite you in the back. I mean, you would have really hard time finding this type of bugs. If I look at my configuration, you can see that I have a UI state and I keep a lot of different UI states, and so if I listen to a particular slice of the store, it's just because of a bug didn't have a value, and then later on when I modified something completely different, this value would get modified, this value would get populated, then my UI would change, and this would be a very difficult bug to resolve. Personally, for me, I would rather have an undefined, which means that if I went and grabbed something from my database, and you can look at my database and my SDK store, it's pretty massive. You can see how many tables are in there. This is a pretty huge application, and and there's really a lot of things going on here, and so it's very easy for me to introduce a bug where I'm expecting a value and a value doesn't actually come back. So essentially this is an SQL database in the NGRX store, and there's a lot of queries that are done through observable through operators. And so how do you mitigate this? So sure, I put a take one and I try and take care of everything so there's no zombie listeners. In a perfect world, this would never happen, but bugs will be introduced. Again, these are not the type of bugs you want to deal with. The type of the bugs you do want to deal with is that if I go ahead and grab the value from get channel from viewer and no value came back, I would get an undefined, and this would be a thrown error, and at that point I'll be able to work with it and I'll be able to see, okay, well, there's undefined, where wasn't there a value, and this would be a bug that us humans can very easily reason about. Having just zombie listeners firing at some random event later because a slice of the store got filled would be extremely difficult. So how do you mitigate this? How do you fix this? So I came up with this decorator called once, and all you do is simply decorate a method with a once. So what's going to happen is that you can see right here that I'm returning an observable, and it's a very simple method. All it does is that it will receive this observable and it will simply unsubscribe on the next tick. So you can also, if you are running some async function that you know that for sure is not going to go over 60 seconds because it's some sort of maybe a server call that you want to cancel, you can do it as well. But in most cases, we're talking about synchronous data here. And you can see the code right here. Very simple function, but really saves you, because what's going to happen is that every time that I have a method that returns an observable, I know for sure that I'm going to run through this. I'm going to go and get the value. But if for any reason there was a bug and a value didn't come through, this once will go ahead and unsubscribe for me as soon as this stops executing on the next call stack. So this really plugs in any of the issues that you could potentially have, even with the take one operator. So this pretty much takes care of everything. What's really nice about this is that you can also use it for other things, not necessarily as observables. Any function that you want to call back, so you just return the function and it will call the function. As you can see right here, we test for a subscriber and we call it, and if it's just a regular function, we'll go ahead and call the function to unsubscribe. Also, if we forget to return an observable or any other function for that matter, we'll actually be notified. In this case, I'm just not going to return anything. See, if I double click on screen division, you'll see that I got an error right here telling us if we forgot to return an observable. So it reminds you that you have to return an observable anytime you want to unsubscribe. Another really cool thing about this one decorator is that even if you're using an anti-pattern, as you can see right here, I have a method right here on select next channel, and then I have a subscription, and then inside the subscription I call another method which also has a subscription. Now I'm not recommending that you guys do this because this is sort of an anti-pattern. You really want to chain your operators and have a single stream. But even if you did something like this, you still will be able to use the once and you'll be able to unsubscribe from both subscriptions. It's a really nice way to solve even anti-patterns when you're just having a hard time with operators and you just want to break it down into multiple streams or multiple observables that simply call each other, and you have a nested subscription. Also, you can use this decorator if you want to return a value back, just using a simple callback. So you can see right here, I'm running the sort timelines, and once I finish running this observable, I want to go ahead and work with some value that I get back. But if you wanted to actually break it down to multiple observables, all you have to do is simply put a callback. So you can see right here under sort timelines, all I have to do is simply accept the callback, and then I get back the value that came back from my observable. All I have to do at this point is simply call the callback with my final result. This of course comes back over here to the sorted timelines, which is the result of this function calling it back, which is an array of campaign timeline models. So the ones will still unsubscribe, then just simply use a callback if you want to pass a value back into the calling function. And let me remind you that you don't need to use the once all the time, only when you're doing manual subscription. So for example, over here I'm doing screen templates and I'm also using an observable, but of course I didn't have to wrap it in a once decorator because a screen template is actually being subscribed to over here in my template, and so I don't need to do anything special. There's no reason to use a once. And also here that I switched back to my helper library of observable methods, you can see that I often chain multiple calls. Anytime you chain these observable calls, you don't have to worry about putting the once decorator. So anytime you use the keyword subscribe, just remember that, okay, well, over here you're gonna have potentially a leak, potentially a zombie listener, and at that point you want to go ahead and wrap it in the once decorator. So thanks for watching. My handle is born2net, and you'll be able to get all the source code on my GitHub repo. Thanks.